Hello everyone, are you jealous of my t-shirt? Well, now you can get it. We have a limited edition set of the Waifu Army t-shirt, so you can pick one up. But if t-shirts aren't your thing, we also have cute little stickers with ghosts and girls. We have lovely face masks to keep you healthy, and even mouse pads. We've got body pillows for you to snuggle up on, just gotta be careful of those knives, and even a digital comic. The link's in the description to our shop. Come by and see what we got. Now let's begin the episode, shall we? Bye, guys. Hey, guys, welcome back to the letter. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great numbers of thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness unlike the ones greeting me every morn. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is there. And, as expected, the second I step out of my flat, it comes apart, broken, with the voices of two squabbling adults echoing from the floor below. The quiet was nice while it lasted.
What the hell were you thinking?
That was loud.
I wasn't.
Yeah, we could tell.
Ow! Could you let go?
Not a second later, they both ascend the stairs, with Ashton pulling Isabella by her wrist. She struggles, as she should, but his hold on her remains firm. Freeing herself means having to draw blood as she attempts to pry his hand off her with the other one, or using unnecessary force to push herself away. Neither of which is better than the other. One could potentially end in an accident, while the other means having to hurt him physically. She has the good sense to realize that, at least, however, it doesn't take the desperate edge in her voice when she answers Ashton's temper with her own. So on they go. I can't read. None the wiser to my presence.
Do you have any idea how much trouble you could get in?
That's why I'm asking you for help.
Is this what you've been doing these past 3 days? Because this doesn't make your case convincing, Isabella.
Rose died, Ash.
I know. Every single person in Luxburg knows. It's on the damn news. But that doesn't mean...
People are missing. Some of those are my friends. And BRC's just covering it all up.
You can't just barge into my office and expect me to do anything about it, right off the bat.
I mean, you could try.
This isn't a children's game, Isabella. We have procedures. We have to follow protocol. There's red tape all over this case for a reason. We sure as hell don't investigate things just because some stupid letter spooked us.
Ash, you have to believe me this time. If we don't do anything right now, more people will...
It's been a whole week. This stupid letter prank is getting old real fast. I'm sick of it. It was funny the first time, not so much now.
You're the only one that can help me with this, Ash. Even Rebecca won't.
All right, you two are awfully loud. What's going on here?
Both of their heads snap up almost in unison, a displeased frown on each of their faces, but this is a necessary interruption. What can they do? People still in their units have already taken interest on the commotion, with some taking a peek behind their curtains, while others are bold enough to creak open their doors, if only slightly. If they don't keep it down, pretty soon our landlady will show up. Getting a reprimand from her is the last thing I want to happen. First thing on a Friday morning, even if this is hardly my fault.
Well, if you want to continue this, you two better do it elsewhere. You're disturbing other people.
Don't worry, we're done here.
No, we aren't. Becca, I looked it up. I called them. I visited some of them and...
Which you shouldn't have done in the first place. Isabella, you're going to create more problems for us with what you're doing. A team has already been assigned to it. Leave it to us.
Your precious team is looking at it the wrong way. Becca, it's not just Rose. There are others.
The last bit strikes a chord, prods strongly at the memory. At that vicious smile already etched deeply inside my mind. The image appears clear enough that, at the mere mention of it, I stumble on my own question.
What do you mean?
The letter, Rebecca! It's not...
It's nothing. If there's really something going on because of that dumb letter, none of us would be standing here. We've all read it, haven't we? But Rebecca's alive, Zach's alive, I'm alive. So for the last time, this isn't a curse. There's a murderer on the loose, and your coworkers happen to be the victims. Give it a rest, Isabella. It's too early for this shit.
Don't you think that's too much for a coincidence?
A little bit, yeah, actually.
Not so much. Most serial killers follow a pattern. I'll tell you about it some other time. And anyway, coincidence or not, the point is, civilians like you aren't supposed to get involved. You're putting yourself in danger.
I wasn't chasing after...
Will the both of you slow down and stop arguing for a minute? What's this about your coworkers, Belle?
Becca, please don't tell me now you believe this shit.
Sure, in a heartbeat, I'll agree with Ashton. That's how it's always been. Besides having a very good point. Really, they're the very same ones he'll make every time I ask too many questions. But the fact of the matter is, what he wants to hear from me right now is far from what I've been sensing these past few days. It doesn't matter what Isabella or I believe on our own. Something odd has been happening around me, and that letter she picked up is at the heart of it. But, however I respond to the question in their face, only one of them will be pleased. Let's see. I want to see how the relationship status went. I don't care if it went down. Ashton in particular won't be too happy. Imagining the look on his face doesn't take too much effort. His entire posture shifts for a moment. My reluctance shows, shoulders tensing, brows furrowing, eyes gaining a sharp edge. He's already bracing himself for the disappointment. And it will be disappointment. Not in a million years did I believe I'll be saying this either.
I might have seen her. The woman Belle's been telling us about. The one she said she saw in the attic.
Both of them stare at me like I've grown an extra head, and for a few minutes Ashton looks as if he's about to have a fit. A pause treads at its heels after, a silence thick enough. One can almost hear a pin drop.
You're kidding, right?
Do I look like I'm joking?
Really, Becca? Not funny.
Ash, I'm not lying. Why would I lie about this? It's been this way since the film fest. The past few days have been really odd since we read that letter.
Or maybe you're all just feeling under the weather.
I'm not sick. Don't you think I'd know that by now?
Becca, you're starting to sound like Scaredy Cat. Give me a break.
Why don't you?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you two.
Isabella's voice cuts sharply through the conversation, abruptly putting an end to the brewing argument.
It's all my fault. This is all my fault. I was only hoping I could fix this before any of you. I'm sorry for dragging you all into this.
She breathes in deep, steady. She breathes in deep, steadying, and in that moment, something falls behind her eyes as she looks away.
I'll fix this. I promise.
A quiet resolve. The same one I saw in her the night from 3 days ago. But this time it burns brighter. Even Ashton wavers at its sight. When she looks at him straight in the eyes, gaze unflinching, gradually he grips on her wrist loosens.
Belle, there's nothing to fix. The problem is,
Just this once, Ash.
Her voice, though small and lacking in any force, stops him. Along with that, every sound, every noise dies around us, a hush descending as if the world is waiting for her words.
You don't have to come with me. But if I don't do anything, I am going to regret it.
She lays a hand atop his, gentle, pleading, almost intimate, if one does not consider the circumstance we found ourselves in.
Please.
Ashton will never tell a soul, will never admit it to even himself, but it is in that short second that his own resolve breaks. The moment the hard edge in his eyes soften, and he relinquishes his hold on her, letting his hand fall limply to his side. Wordlessly, Isabella steps back and runs off, leaving only a muttered thanks and a small lackluster smile. Only after the last of her footsteps fade away does Ashton move. Breaking the silence with one of his sharp exhales, before reaching up to pinch the bridge of his nose in a gesture of frustration and surrender.
Did you really have to tell her that?
Yes.
What do you want to hear from me then? That everything's fine?
No, I want all of you to stop putting these ideas in her head. None of it is helping. Never mind. Don't worry about her. I'll bring her back here.
He's already poised to leave when my own instincts takes over. I reach for him, gripping his elbow with the same unyielding grip, the action prompted by voices whispering at the back of my mind. He's already made it clear he's not going to believe me, but he deserves a word of caution. Who knows where all of this will take us, how all of this will end? He shouldn't be caught off guard, beliefs withstanding.
Ash, I know you don't believe in those things she's saying. And you know me. I'm less inclined to believe in those things as you do. But I've seen something. There's something strange going on here. You don't have to buy it. If you don't want to listen to me, fine. But please, try to hear her out. It's bad enough that Isabella goes off like this without telling anyone. I'm just worried something might happen to her if she keeps at it. Talk to her, okay?
As if she trusts me enough for that.
Doesn't the fact that she approached you first about this, instead of me, already say a lot?
A different kind of trust, granted implicitly and never spoken, sometimes too big, too fragile to last. He falls silent for a long moment as he turns it over in his head. In the end, all he manages to offer is a small nod before he departs, and a promise to, at least, listen to her without the teasing or the jibes. Jibes? Jabs? Wouldn't it be jabs? A favor for me, and the least he could do for her. This is as much as I can do for him, as well, until I have understood what's happening myself. Tonight, hopefully, where this all started will provide the answers I'm looking for. Except the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden, whatever Isabella claims dwelling in this mansion becomes the least of my concerns. Of all the cabbies in Luxbourne, I have a chance upon the superstitious one. Still not as bad as finding out your car starter refuses to crank on when it was still working this morning, yes. But it's equally as frustrating when you're forced to walk the rest of the way. All because the driver got spooked. Isabella and him will get along so well. I do get his reason, after all. I've had my fair taste of the bizarre lately. All of which might have been brought upon by that letter Isabella found here. But you'd think he'd at least be charitable enough to take me a little closer to the house itself, not at the distance 15 minutes away from it by foot. Good thing I'm not wearing anything too formal or constricting. Otherwise, that short walk would have likely put me in a bad mood long before I have to suffer in a room full of strangers tonight. Although this soon proves to be a problem the second the driveway comes into view and I near the entrance. Several underdressed is a totally understatement to how I look. Cars worth more than my own apartment and childhood home combined line the mansion front yard. Men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivities to start, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing at the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Miss Wright, from the confident manner of she holds herself among present company. This despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of her own guests, or not having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration, at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxbourne.
Welcome everyone!
And Mum said we would be good friends. I can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guests she has. Though I admit she does seem familiar now that I've seen her in the first place. Memories of sitting in a vanity, not mine, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my tastes. They flit briefly in my mind until her cheerful tone rises above the buzz of her enraptured audience again.
Please, make yourselves at home.
I wish I can share her enthusiasm, really. But being surrounded by all this extravagance, for the lack of a better term, merely makes me dread the rest of the night. I shouldn't have let Luke's words affect me like that. I should have just gone ahead and asked Ashton like I planned. If he were here, I won't have to...
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
The rest of that thought dies in my mind at once. A moment of astonishment overcomes me before confusion sets in seconds later. It takes another for my body to catch up. Once it does, when I finally turn to see it for myself, it's his familiar mop of a hair that catches my eye first. And there he is, almost an arm's reach if it isn't for the guest standing between us. Ashton Frey, standing in the Emmergard mansion driveway with an air too lackadaisical for someone who absolutely abhors parties of any form. Or has any business here, as far as I know. Well, considering the letter comes from here and they've been investigating, you know what? The picture it forms is too bizarre for me that my mouth speaks out ahead of any coherent thought.
Ashton?
He swivels on his heels with a equally puzzled face. An odd expression flashes momentarily across it once he sees me, though he blinks it away before I can figure out exactly what it is.
Becca, what are you doing here?
I was invited.
Really? I had no idea you were friends with the host.
Well, it's my parents, actually. But that's beside the point. What are you doing here? You hate parties.
I still do. I'm just here on behalf of a friend.
That in itself is weird coming from him. It doesn't help that he isn't even making an effort to spare any glances my way when he answers. Instead, they're focused on some point in the crowd. His gaze darts between people walking past us until the small frown forms in his face.
That's rare. Do you have someone with you then?
That's rare. Do you have any friends?
Nope, just me. I won't be staying long.
Oh, well, if that's the case, maybe you and I can...
Chief?
Ashton, what's...
Unexpectedly, he places a hand on my shoulder, stopping me mid-sentence. He still has the distracted look on him, except this time his eyes are sharper, as if he has found what or who he's been searching for among the throng of partygoers earlier.
Sorry, Becca. I need to... There's something I need to check for a bit. I'll talk to you later. Do you have a ride home?
No, I had to take a cab here. My car wouldn't start this afternoon. But what about...
I told you to get that old thing checked before, didn't I? You can head back with me after this. Anyway, I gotta go. See ya. Be careful, okay?
I meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, already he's turned his back from me and is walking away without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I try to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted this sudden departure in his odd warning at the end.
Hey, be careful! About what exact?
Only for my attempts to be interrupted by a muffled ringing from my pocket. Mum's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer.
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
The conversation itself doesn't last long. Just a simple hello, a reminder to enjoy the party and to send their regards to their old student. But when the call ends and I get up to look up, Ashton's already nowhere in sight. With a sigh and admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and head inside. Even with familiar company, however, coincidental this meeting is, this is somehow shaping up to a terrible evening. The party hits full swing an hour later. With the host's opening remarks given, there's still no sign of her husband, poor woman, and the guests promptly fed the band shifts the melody to a livelier tune. Soon laughter and rhythmic tapping of shoes fill the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of music. It seems fun, I'll admit. Fascinating at certain moments, the flurry of dancers making the music their own, almost with no care in the world. If it weren't so disposed, if I wasn't so indisposed, I'd have joined the crowd for a song or two. There isn't a lack of invitations anyway, plenty of them in fact, some asking more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them. And I can. A single nod is all it'll take, and the evening would have been far enjoyable for me. But pride in my own silly hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them by him curbs that, as much as I hate to admit it. Because doing so also means outright acknowledging the douche's claims. That he has to be the one to tell me that still sends my blood boiling. I would have preferred someone more agreeable, less of an ass. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of it makes denial difficult. Can't even spare a minute of his attention, or a single glance at me the whole evening. Hell, Zachary might have spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy covering the event to boot. But at least he manages to slip in a conversation or two between takes, or a small wave of his hand when he passed by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been flitting in and out of sight the whole time. One moment he's hanging around the small group, in another he's hovering around the string band. Just a second ago, he's wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in hand. The next thing I know, he's gone. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he doesn't want to be with any of his friends. Is it because his boss is here? What's the big deal about that? It has never bothered him before.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Her voice almost makes me jump, too focused on the gobshite wandering around the ballroom and my own annoyance to notice. If she's heard any of the profanities I've mumbled, or she's taken notice of my discomfiture, she makes no comment on it, merely greeting me with a smile when I turn my attention to her. Miss Hannah Wright gives off a whole different air when she's not speaking to an audience. Homely, a bit too friendly for my liking. But I guess that comes with being raised in such an environment and having to deal with pompous, snooty people. Though I suppose nothing has really changed from the years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during that one and only visit. Does she remember any of it? I won't be surprised if she doesn't. It has taken me a while myself. She's probably met a lot of people like little Becky throughout the years. Might have already forgotten about me or my parents. People like her thrive on connections after all. Nevertheless, I return her smile, awkward and stiff as it may be.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this, fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the parvenu, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up. Quite the black-haired beauty, isn't he?
It takes me a while to realize who she's talking about, until Ashton walks by again in closer proximity than any of the times he's done so far this evening. Still without a look of acknowledgement our way, though, even if Ms. Wright speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within earshot.
Who, Ash?
You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers. If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name. Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time. I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend then? Because that would explain those rejections.
This isn't the first time someone has made that assumption. Almost every student I've had in the past did. My coworkers, more often than not, assume he is. And a few of my neighbors also think we're an item. Not that Ashton has ever reacted to those. He's been quite indifferent about it, in fact. Still, the heat of a blush creeps up my cheeks, a denial ready, despite wanting it to badly happen.
What? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend.
Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed. Many here would be happy to hear it.
And I haven't been looking at him.
I do my best to summon a straight face, but before her good cheer, it easily falters.
That's right. You've been staring. Quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him.
It's more the latter currently.
Just don't go murdering him on my property. I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there.
I like her. It's infectious in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying our chat more than I've imagined myself to. Although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more once I've mentioned who my parents are, her face quickly lightens up, and fondness graces her face, despite the meeting from several years ago being a short one. But of course, there are some things we can't avoid talking about. After all, it's one of the few things I remember her asking me the moment she spotted little Becky in the room. Do you have a boyfriend? In retrospect, it's an odd thing to talk about as children, when there are loads we could have started with.
Yes, oh, I remember you. You were the cutest little thing with glasses. And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad called something with an A.
I believe I still have the clothes she gave me, chosen all so I could impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen, he's a detective, for heaven's sake, but feelings more often than not escape him.
What was it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele, Albert, Alexander, Andrew?
Which makes this whole talk all the more embarrassing. And the more names she lists off, the more my discomfort grows until my smile turns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married to a man she most probably loves at that. While I'm still stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person.
Ashton! Ash!
It's gonna hit her.
That man is that boy! The same one. Oh, goodness me, after all these years! I can see why, though. He's quite dashing.
You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know? Keep it down.
I'm so sorry, but it really is cute.
She says that, but for a short moment, a hint of pity flickers in her eyes. I take that as a chance to change the subject before anything more can be said over the matter. I haven't even figured out how I should feel about the things Luke said to me. Now I'm getting dragged into a similar discussion.
So, this is a nice party, Miss Wright.
Though, to be frank, I doubt she'll be so willing to pass this up. The topic has already captured her attention.
Please, Hana's fine. We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little infatuation, Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet.
I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for.
Oh? And what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending?
The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales. And they are, sorta. I don't think you can just sit around, trapped in some tower and hope for the best. If you love them, you have to fight for it, right? You're not just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work at it.
Hypocrisy. That's what this is. How dare I preach about something when it's exactly what I've been doing. And then, I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. That by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whatever I feel for him, but he's not allowed to look at another, because I'm the one who has stayed by his side the longest, when, in the first place, Ashton has always been his own person. This is something I cannot force on him. I can only hold on to these, take care of it, until the time comes and I can confess it to him. Great if he reciprocates, but if he can't, if he won't, selfish. I've been too selfish. How laughable that Luke's words still strike true until now.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
At one point, maybe I would have easily agreed to that. However, the weeks past have also seen changes in the way I view things. As nice as these things sound, it turns out whatever I previously know may not even be true for other people or for myself. It is sobering and almost funny how things I might have said with much certainty before now has doubts muddying each of them. But there will be time to mull about these later, because when a hush suddenly descends in the room, a whole different issue rears. Especially when fucking Luke, strides into the now quiet ballroom, fashionably late and oozing with the same pompous he always carries around with him.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party? I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the Wright Mansion.
Before long, Hana leaves my side to join him, and it doesn't take a genius to piece it all together.
Welcome one and all to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are all ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses, as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone!
His attitude and manner he carries himself around people he's unfamiliar with in this part of the city. Fucking course. I should have known. Although I'm partially at fault here, tabloids and gossip columns have never been my thing. I should have also expected that wherever Luke fucking Wright is, some sort of drama will surely follow. He seems the kind of person who revels in it, figures it'll find him on its own, even when he's not asking for it. It happens amidst a round of applause and hoots that people lagging behind the crowd they've gathered does not catch on until the cheers turn into several scandalous gasps.
I am pregnant with your little bastard. You promised me you'll take responsibility. God damn it, Luke. I finally got you to talk to me after months of silence, and you do this to me.
He's gonna kill her.
What do you mean you're pregnant with? Luke, is this true?
Lies and slander, woman! Security! Johannes, take her out of here before she makes an even bigger fool of herself!
No, you do not do this to me. I was so ready to leave my stupid oaf of a husband. I told you to leave that damn wife of yours. Look at her. Does she look like she wants a baby? Does she look like she could take care of a baby?
The commotion doesn't go further despite a drunk woman appearing like she's plenty more venom to spill. In a little while, security shows up escorting her out. Apparently, she's the chief inspector's wife, too. As if this whole thing can't get any more fucked up than it already is. What a mess. But the damage has been done, and beyond the repercussions this'll bring, I'm more worried about Hana. Maybe Luke too, in part. I've seen the man that hides behind his self-importance, and it is someone who cares for the person who stands beside him, no matter how questionable that is now. After all, no anger is worse than that of a scorned woman. And Hana? Well, as refined and well-mannered she is in front of their guests, I'm not sure she'll be all too willing to tolerate this. Her party, her home, her husband, and that woman has just dared to walk over it. Yet, when I glance at her, there's only defeat, a weary slump on her shoulders, and a certain depth to her breathing. Like the fight has already been drained out of her long ago. I don't know since when this has been going on. I don't know either of them well to judge for myself. I'm simply an outsider who happens to have some kind of connection with the both of them. But the air of a person who wishes for respite, it's all too easy to see it in her, as she quietly watches the commotion carry on around her. In a moment, before I can think it through, I'm pulling her to the side and waving Zachary over to us.
Becca, this is a real oh, hey, Miss Wright.
Hello, Zachary. I told you to call me Hana. Did I not?
Yeah, you did.
Admittedly, this air is familiar between them catches me off guard. I won't put it past Hana. Her standing in society compels her to keep appearances and be nice to everyone sort of thing. While Zachary's growing client base sometimes calls for rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. Although, from the way it appears, this one seems to go beyond maintaining a facade of work. I wonder how this friendship came to be. I'd ask, but we're starting to attract some curious eyes. Most of them are probably searching for more gossip, something to add fuel to the fire. Thankfully, there's no need to explain it to Zachary. He's aware of the situation all too well.
So, this is what you called me for? We gonna get Hana out of here?
That'd be great.
Soon, he's leading the three of us out of the ballroom. Anyone who dares speak or approach on our way out, I shut down with a sharp glare. And that's where we're gonna end it, guys. So, next time we'll find out just what's going to happen. I really quickly want to say that this episode and the rest of them are dedicated to Kite, a big fan of this game and a good friend and fan of the channel who has sadly passed away. So if anyone can give a little love in the comment section, he was a really great guy and we're all gonna miss him. So guys, I'll see you all next time. Bye.
Good night.